and that the way that the system works is designed literally to keep you small and suffering and needing. When you've healed that or like really challenged that, then you're able to make the plans and you're able to relook your finances or even strip away the shame of asking for help or even asking for money, asking for investment in a
Hello and welcome to another episode of Faark the Shoulds podcast. I am Jodi from QuantiMama and I am so excited to have our first international guest here. It's feeling very late here in Australia as I welcome Chantel from Becoming This Mama. Welcome, Chantel.
Thank you so much. It's thrilling to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, so I know because I was like, I've got to start quite late because you're in the Netherlands. And it was really funny because one of the things I saw on your socials was that you were in Western Australia. And I'm like, oh, cool, she's another Aussie. And like, nope.
No, it's so beautiful there. I'm originally from South Africa and it's crazy. Western Australia looks almost exactly like the Western Cape.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
But yeah, we went on it was crazy. The similarities and the people, and just I can see why so many South Africans flock to Australia. We did a 3-week road trip with our then 4-year-old and our 8-month-old, and it was amazing.
Yeah, that's kind of hardcore too. And I think it's actually perfect because I became so lit up listening to your message on Insta. So Becoming This Mama, talk us through it because you're basically a warrior voice for the postpartum period. What do you want to say about that?
Firstly, thank you. I take that as an incredible compliment to say that I'm a warrior. That's what I feel in my heart, and it was really born out of my first birth was quite a traumatic one. Here in the Netherlands, you get up to, or you're allowed to go up to 42 weeks to have a home birth. And home birth is really supported here, which is amazing. And then, unfortunately, after 42 weeks, you're just like, bam, immediately medicalized, let's say, and they transfer you to hospital, and you have to then birth in hospital without the team of midwives that you had before. Anyway, it was a failed induction and a traumatic C-section, and then a postpartum experience that, to say the least, at the time I thought I was doing pretty well. And then looking back, I was just like, oh my God, it's not normal. It might be common to experience all the things that I was experiencing, but it is not normal to feel that way. I was one afternoon, just like, I can just remember it so vividly, sitting on the couch as my husband was leaving for work because his paternity leave was over. And I was like catatonic on the couch, holding this tiny baby, just completely devoid of or detached of the feeling, because I felt so overwhelmed and I was so incredibly isolated. I had decided not to have any visitors or anyone come over because I was like, I can do this, like what's the big deal? It's a tiny little baby.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really just hit me for a sec. It's like I was just absolutely like, what the fuck is happening?
No question.
I just went into this crazy spiral of just wanting to find out absolutely everything about how postpartum is actually supposed to feel and what it's actually about and what's happening in my body and in my brain. And it just sent me on this incredible journey, that word, but that's what
I
it
know.
was.
You're a woman after my own heart, can I just say?
Oh, honestly. But yeah, and I was just like, oh my God, I have to tell everybody. Everybody that doesn't know this, like me, I'm an educated, person who thought I was this feminist and everything, and then in one go, I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's where I first was called Belly Birth Mom, and then I changed it just before or after. I'm actually not really sure. I think it was after I had my VBAC with my son last year, and just had, first of all, the most incredibly redemptive birth. And then at 43 weeks, let me just say, because I'm
Wow.
so proud of that.
I mean, I think we almost need a moment's pause for that. It's incredible.
Sure.
I mean, that in Australia, that would be largely unheard of. So women even pushing past 41 weeks have got to negotiate that. So I just want to maybe just pay homage to the spirit that it takes for the woman with the trust and surrender to get to that place. But also, I think a nod in some ways to your care providers as well. So, you intentionally must have assembled people that trusted you and you trusted them and you all trusted your baby to actually get to that place. And so you had a VBAC, and I mean, that's always so incredibly special because so many women are talked out of that as a viable option for birth. But I agree that the healing and the restoration that can happen within a birth experience, we completely underestimate. And so I'm assuming that it led to a really beautiful postpartum period, or certainly one that was quite different and didn't feature catatonia.
110%. Yeah, everything that you just said, it did take a lot of patience, but also the team that was anti-system was so important. And I experienced all the hormones and everything because, often I also feel like birth and postpartum, we see so much talk of the separation, really, and birth is really important, but make sure that you make a postpartum plan because it's more important. And although I agree that postpartum planning is very undervalued, we can't separate the two, because what I experienced, the hormones that I experienced, it was an unmedicated birth as well, unmedicated VBAC. I had labored for about 5 days before he finally came into the world. And it wasn't hospital. I chose to transfer from home because it was taking so long, but it was completely my decision. So I felt so good with that. But the hormones, how the body actually works with you going into early postpartum. I mean, I was on an absolute high for days, which helped so much in turn with the baby blues, baby blues. I say that with quotation marks. Basically, the cliff dive that you feel those first or after the first couple of days. The oxytocin and everything that my body was creating just helped me regulate all of that so much. And it was, I mean, if I talk about night and day, like my birth with my daughter, I always say, which is terrifyingly sad, that it was the best and the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
And the birth of my son was just like glory all the way,
Yeah.
So
yeah, the angels were singing in the wings, I can imagine. And I share not a cesarean history, but an interventionist birth for my first, and then the contrast for the next 3 that were all wildly different, but the complete contrast of that managed experience. And yeah, I can totally appreciate what you're saying, because I think what you're then talking about is this not just a physiological birth, but also a physiological postpartum. And I would imagine so many women in our community globally don't know what a physiological postpartum period feels like, because there's so much management of their pregnancy and then their birth, and then all the, as we would say, the shoulds that kick in about you should be doing this, you should be back to this size, you should be entertaining people and offering them cups of tea while they come and kiss the baby, and all the things that strip us down of the reverence of this beautiful winter space where we could actually just be bonding as a family, but also allowing the deep healing that the body and the soul has gone through to bring this child earthside. I mean, I'd love for you to talk more about, I think, what you observed in that second experience, because you had this sort of clarity of mind around what the difference was.
Yeah. So first of all, I can't say that I went to it and it was all thanks to the birth. I had so much preparation.
Yeah.
I think that I stopped preparing for birth because obviously I was really on it with the, preparing for a VBAC. But I stopped around the beginning of the third trimester planning for and preparing for birth. And I went beast mode into preparing for postpartum. And that was mostly cooking, batch cooking, and making sure that I had over 40 meals cooked.
Wow.
So I knew that I wouldn't have to cook. I just had to heat up something if my husband wasn't home. Um, so there was a lot of prep for that. But yeah, just the second experience also had a very non-system postpartum nurse. So in the Netherlands, we have funded postpartum care,
Wow.
which is also very surprising to a lot of people. And obviously, it's a wonderful service. It's free, and you get up to a minimum of 3 hours to a maximum of, I think it's 8 hours a day for the first week after birth. And there are also a lot of these nurses that unfortunately under the system have become also more medicalized. So they're focused a lot on taking temperatures and, making notes and all of that. But I happen to have the sister of my midwife who, supported me to in the birth, so or up to the birth, and she was just like, I don't care about any of these things. Like, we're gonna talk. I'm gonna massage your feet. I'm gonna prepare the herbs for your sitz bath. Like, she was that kind of a postpartum nurse. So it kind of overlaps a little bit with a postpartum doula, and I kind of saw her as that for the first week. But what you said earlier about, physiological postpartum is it sounds so woo-woo when it's not, it is sacred. Postpartum is sacred. And we are, as a white Western culture, we are so like undervaluing it and just looking at it as, how quickly can this be over? How quickly can I be back to who I was before?
Mm-hmm.
And it's completely just, it's a travesty. It's tragic.
Yes.
If we can look at the potency of that time and what we can learn about ourselves and our new partnership with our partner and how we move in the world and what we want to do with our lives, like, it is just connects to all of that. And modeling that for my children, taking it slow, really being taken care of, putting myself first in a time when everyone's like, oh, but sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. That to me was so important, because I want my daughter to see what she's going to deserve when she becomes a mom. And my son, he was the baby, but I wanted him to imprint in who he is, what kind of partner he's going to be when he becomes a father. So, yeah, just all of that.
Just bring it into the new generation. I mean, it's so interesting. I don't know if this is the case for the Netherlands, but because it sounds like the postpartum support is far more advanced than what we experience in Australia. That definitely doesn't happen at all. If you're lucky, you get a couple of visits from the midwife to come and see you if you're in the public system for maybe three days or something like that. And then there's no further care until you see the maternal child health nurse at 6 weeks. And even then, that's more of a clinical thing. They check in on your mental health, but it's all this very basic stuff. They don't really sit with you. They don't hold space. They don't encourage, I think, a really honest conversation. And perhaps there are some maternal health, child and health nurses that do that, but in my experience, I was still in that space of, well, I just got to get in, tick the box, make sure little Johnny's okay, and then we get out again and carry on with life. But there are so many women that I know that return then to work at 6 weeks, which is usually the earliest they can return. And that even in itself just breaks my heart, because I can't even imagine the body recovering adequately, let alone what that does for the bonding between mother and child and mother and father and just the family unit. And I see this as an erosion of the family unit that now I am working on, embodying in my own family now that my kids are older, but also trying to reawaken that in other parents who haven't worked out up until now to speak up for themselves and their children. So it's almost like a systematic thing of stripping people back from that awareness that they actually have a seat at the table and voting rights in what's happening both for them and their children. And this is why I'm curious. This is why I'm so excited to talk to you, because you have what we would consider quite an advanced and supportive system, and there's still failings within that. And I understand that happens because it comes down to also the practitioner and the mechanism by which it's delivered, which is obviously government, one size fits everyone. In Australia, I see that women definitely don't value the postpartum. There is definitely a rising awareness of postpartum doulas, and they are becoming more available, but we still need to wake women up to the fact that this is a value, and in fact it is so relevant for them to have this experience, because you will never get another postpartum time. But there are women who return to work within 6 weeks of birthing, which I just think is the greatest travesty of our life and of our community. And it is stripping families back from the potency of knowing the power that is the family unit, how you can advocate for your children, how you can advocate for yourself, how you can nourish one another within the family unit. And it feels very much like an absolute juggernaut of energy to try and wrest back so that we can help women take these opportunities for postpartum. And I'm curious about, even within the Netherlands, whether you notice that women are resistant or have sort of been entrained about not taking this postpartum time. They need to kind of be awakened to the need for it, or their birthright.
Oh, yeah, there's so much to unpack there. And it's one of the things that I talk about a lot as well on my page and on Instagram, is there's postpartum prep on the outside. We are cooking meals and we're making sure that we're going to rest and all of that. But there's so much inner work that we need to do. If we skip that part, we're going to be having so much more of a difficult time when it comes to resting, when it comes to not feeling like you have to be on. Because as most of us are trained, women trained to be good, to be our value lies within what we can offer within our productivity. And it's like, if I'm just lying on the couch with this little baby, or in bed even, because that's the biggest pushback that I get. Like, you laid in bed for 2 weeks. Like, are you crazy? And it's like, well, who does this and who does that? And it's like, well, all of that was organized, and I know that that's all being handled, first of all. But then the pressure that you put on yourself to feel, am I allowed to do this? Do I deserve to do this? Do I deserve to just lie here? And I think a lot of women also, and a lot of new moms, they kind of separate, how can I put it? Like, the health of themselves from the health of their babies.
Yes.
When they are so inextricably linked, we think that when we just give and give and give, and as long as the baby is okay, as long as the baby's okay, when in fact they are dependent on your thriving and you being well. It is such an interconnected system. They don't just weeks and months. So if you are thriving and well, they are thriving and well. And that is something that I tell everyone all the time, is you've got to work on your conditioning, and you've got to understand that taking care of yourself means taking care of your baby. So yeah, that is something that is so vital to look at.
Do you think we can get there? Do you think there's a way to have the ideal postpartum?
100%, because I had it.
Yeah.
And I see other women having it. In Australia, there is a beautiful woman that I follow, called Layla, from Village for Mama. She had a second set of twins. I mean, she is just like a perfect example, especially from Australian point of view as well, because I think that's helpful to have that example instead of someone who has, like funded care on this side, from my experience. But I mean, she had a second set of twins. She has 5 kids, and she honored her 40-day resting period. Not that there wasn't an insane amount of intentional planning and organization that went into that, but that is how I see someone, taking control of it and being intentional about it and showing that it absolutely is possible. And something else, and when you say ideal, that's also something that I want to cover, is a lot of women say, oh, but maybe I had a postpartum doula, or I had this and it was still hard. It's meant to be hard.
Yeah.
Postpartum is not meant to be easy. And we're not doing these things so that we are, on a holiday. We're doing them so that we can have the support and have someone holding us as we go through the fire, because it is meant to strip us away and break us down to what we need to be as a mother. The maiden us and the mom of 1 or the mom of 2 or the mom of 3 is not the mom that your second child or your third child or your first child needs, So that's where the intentionality also is so important. You need to have a vision, and you need to know what you need to put in place to have the quote unquote ideal postpartum, is to be supported and not to be struggling and to be white knuckling, those newborn days. Yeah.
So when you meet resistance, and I know that your message is polarizing, probably because it actually speaks to the truth in people's cells in their body. So they hear the truth, but there's a dissonance there, right? So then, of course, you're going to be the person that they aim that objection at. What what's the one that stands out the most that you would love just to have a magic wand and just resolve that as a belief system that does not serve, and just have it eliminated?
That's a beautiful question, because there, as you can imagine, are so many.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that, if I really look at sort of the root cause of a lot of the resistance for all of the things, from rest to putting yourself first, or even investing in postpartum care, because I get a lot of pushback around money, a lot of pushback around that's not realistic for most mothers, that's not realistic for people, working people. It really, really comes down to the conditioning of, do I even deserve this? Am I even allowed this? It really, really, really comes back to self. Because if you believe that you deserve it, and that the way that the system works is designed literally to keep you small and suffering and needing, when you've healed that, or like really challenged that, then you're able to make the plans, and you're able to relook your finances, or even strip away the shame of asking for help, or even asking for money, asking for investment in I had a postpartum fund, and for every birthday, like baby shower, all of that stuff that was wanting to be planned, I said, oh, no, 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 no. Here's the account number, put some money in there. So that's the magic wand. I would just be like, take away the conditioning that you're not worthy of experiencing that amount of love and support and attention and rest after birth. Yeah.
Oh, that makes me want to cry. It's so beautiful. So, because I didn't do that for myself, and I'm learning that now that I'm 50. What can you share with us? What does that feel like to actually embody that?
Scary. It's scary because, there's so many layers, and I think it's also really, really individual. From your own family setup, from the generational trauma, also, such a hot topic word, but if you really look at it, the pain that your mother carried in her postpartum, and your mother's mother, because you literally were in her body.
Yes.
That carries over into how we feel. And I have, unfortunately, a broken maternal line when it comes to care. And there was a lot of trauma that I carried through there, and I was kind of devastated to find out that I was having a daughter as my first child, because I thought, oh my God, like how am I going to be the mom that she needs to be? And that was also just like the inspiration and the drive to really look at that internally for myself. And it's a process. It takes time. You don't just wake up one morning and go, oh yeah, it's small practices for yourself. When you're on, this is something that I talk about sometimes, and people are like, oh, that, can't really see the connection. But when you're on your period, if you are on the first 2 days of your period, you can use that as like a small practice for postpartum. Do you take the paracetamol, or I don't know what you guys call it there, Panado or whatever? Do you just like pop that real quick and get on with it? Or do you say like, oh, okay, I'm going to slow down today. I'm going to, rest, and I'm going to tell my partner, can he please cook me a steak or whatever? and use that as a practice to receive, because postpartum is not a time for giving, it is a time for receiving. And that's what we need to really practice before going into postpartum.
It seems like the perfect answer to giving birth to receive care. I think that's just the most eloquent description I have ever heard. And I think that so many people will find that accessible as they just balance out the giving birth with receiving care. There's so many brilliant suggestions in there, and in some ways I wished I could quantum leap back, but I'm grateful for my contrasting experiences. So tell me how, because obviously you're using your voice in the most potent way, but more than that, I love that you are a woman embodying your message. Like you've done that with this birth experience, this, your son's postpartum period where you actually did, luxuriate in the winter of that recovery. How do you support people now?
So at the moment, I'm studying to become a postpartum practitioner, a holistic postpartum practitioner, let me say, because that's really important distinction.
Yes.
And I'm really going into, working on my dream to become a postpartum doula and in-person practitioner with women and support them in their homes after they've given birth. But at the moment, because I'm still working in corporate, and this is really a passion project of mine, I am selling guides on it's on my website that you can find in the link on my Instagram. And they're basically guides to support you in preparing for your postpartum period. So for yourself, and what kind of meals you want to cook, how to make sure that you have, thought about rest and who's going to be taking care of you. I have a guide for partners, which is probably my best seller. I think a lot of mums buy that for their partners, but I've actually had quite a few men buy it as well. And it's for them to literally just understand what's going to happen in the postpartum period, how they can support their partner, and how they can bond with the baby, and how they can take care of themselves as well. And then I have two different guides, sort of one is a recipe cookbook, and the other is a small nutritional guide with recipes for a week, the first week or weeks to come after birth. And then my absolute sort of, passion is the guide that I'm working on now that's going to be released soon, called The Postpartum Village. And that's basically the modern mom's way of gathering her village and her support for those first 6 weeks after birth, because I think that's probably the biggest question that I get is, how do you do that? We live in such a time of isolation, and the village doesn't just show up like it should. It doesn't, unfortunately, just show up. And this is how to take control of that and empower yourself. And so that's being released in about 2 weeks. And I'm so excited about it.
As you well should, because I think that what happens is you create a blueprint for women to create that village for themselves, and we start breaking down this systematic, intentional disruption to family and community that is by design, as far as I can see. So I highly recommend people get onto these guides and obviously follow along for when you drop this next brilliant blueprint for people, because what you're doing is you're embodying the living example of what it is to be held in that space. And, I just think it's so sad so many of us wait to experience that. It's almost like we wait until our kids are sort of fending for themselves, or at least able to feed themselves before we ask for that time. And as a consequence, it keeps our voice small, and it means that we don't advocate for ourselves in the same way, and we don't advocate for our children in the same way. And the loss is real because, as you say, you're a beautiful example of someone who actually said, "Nah, I'm going to do it this way," and look what's happened coming out the other side. Like, what you say has resonance for people. They know that that is the right pathway forward. It's not the only pathway, but it's certainly the one that nourishes the mind, body, and soul of the entire community because of the ripple effect that birthing woman experiences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I say that it, we see it so separate. We see our experiences so separate when everything is connected. The same way that you earlier said, postpartum is a time for receiving after you've given birth. But it's not just that we give when we give birth, we give for the rest of our lives. We are the nurturers, we are the caretakers, we are pouring out of ourselves forever. Is 40 days really that much to ask? If you are seeing 40 days as a time, as too much time, that's something to look at in itself. So yeah, I've seen firsthand the difference that it made for our family, taking care of myself and being asked to be taken care of. Yeah. So it's something that I will never stop advocating for. Yeah.
Oh. Chantel, thank you so much for your time. I have loved this conversation. I feel that we have only scratched the surface and we will make another time to talk. I am so grateful for you and your wisdom and the fact that you took the leap to actually nourish yourself so it becomes your lived experience. You can speak from that place of authority, not just the desire for what was meant to be. So thank you again for joining us on Faark the Shoulds.
Thank you so much, Jodi. I appreciate everything you're doing. This is such a beautiful podcast. And yeah, I hope everyone that listens is like, yeah, I'm going to put myself first.
Hell yeah, that's a great way to finish. Thanks, Quanta folks. We'll look forward to seeing you again. As always, thank you for being here, and please go check out Chantel and her very deep and worthy and important work at becoming this mama. Hey Quanta folks, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Birth is transformational. And it can be transformational in the right way and in the not so right way. So how do we arm ourselves to be really prepared for this incredible experience? Well, you wouldn't go out and run a marathon without any kind of training. You'd at least do occasional stretches, and the High Vibe Birth course, which is self-paced, available at the QuantiMama.com website, is available for you. You get to luxuriate in all of the ideas and transformational techniques and the beautiful information that can only have a positive effect on your birth. So get fit for your birth marathon and head to QuantiMama for the High Vibe Birth course. Beautiful Quanta folks. You know, at QuantiMama, we have a mandate that we feel so passionate about. We want and we are raising the community's vibration and frequency and consciousness through parenting and birth experiences. Such incredible, transformational experiences that will shape you as a person and are the very fabric of life. Do you want to find out how to high vibe your experience even more? Then QuantiMama is your place. Head there for the High Vibe Birth course, ultimate preparation for birthing. Head there if you want to re-engage your child in the love of learning for the Take the Leap course, which is a deschooling course for parents. There's beautiful mind movies, and obviously this podcast is there, and we are here to support you. So head there for all the juice.